Today we are going to discuss about declaration blocks. So what is the declaration blocks? It is actually whatever the series of declaration you are defining in your CSS. Those declaration series will be called as declaration block. Declaration block can be together on a single line or spread across multiple lines. It is nothing like your comment section which you declare in your other programming language. So declaration you need, right? You have to define that this program is like CSS. We are defining the CSS for paragraph. You want to give the declaration. So you can use the declaration block wherever you need, either it's a single line or multiple line. The browser will ignore the white space which you are using. We have seen in previous example that when we are defining the white space, only one white space will be considered. But when you need extra space between any two text, then it will not take, because you have to use the tag. So that is the ampersand NBSP semicolon. And each declaration will be terminated with semicolon. So in CSS, wherever you are using the properties and value pair, so you will be using the semicolon. So example, we can see here example that selector, we have used property and value, we have given semicolon. Again we are using property 2 colon value 2. Example, you can see here we are using embedded tag EM, property is colored and value is red, and we have given semicolon. So we are defining this syntax, that is the rule, in one line. The same way, if you want to define this declaration in multiple lines, that also you can do that. You can see here we have used margin colon 5 pixel 0 pixel 10 pixel 0. After that we are using semicolon here. This way also you can use. Therefore, as we have mentioned the declaration block, so the declaration block can be a single line or can be multiple line. You can use any ways. The next, you have selectors. So which element will be considered as a selector, and how you are going to define the selector, that is the question now. So whenever you want to define a selector, or you want to select which is selector, so generally in every CSS rule, whenever you begins with the selector, so any rule which you are defining in CSS, that will begin with your selector. Definitely selector will be there. Without selector, the rule will be not defined. Next, the selector will identify which element or elements in HTML document will be affected by the declaration in the rule. So when you use a selector, using that selector only you are going to call the particular tag in your HTML. Therefore, it will be deciding your rule, and accordingly it will call the effect which required on your HTML page. Another way of thinking of selected is that they are patterned. They are a pattern which is used by the browser to select HTML element that will receive the style. So what it means? That same thing what you are using here, you can see here we have used the same thing. We have used here multi-line. Therefore, we are selecting different selector. So as many selector you can define in your CSS, it's up to you. It's depend on your page design. Okay, how you want to design your page. So on that basis, it will decide your selectors. Next, about properties. So whenever you have selector, therefore you have to define the properties. So which style properties you are going to select for the element, that you should know. Therefore, in each individual CSS declaration, it will contain a property. As we have just now seen the example, every selector will be having a properties. So in CSS, every CSS selector properties value will be there. And these properties names are predefined by the CSS standard. You cannot change this. You cannot write by your any assumption. Yes, I will be defining anything name a property. No, it is the CSS standard and it is all predefined, like which we are using color. So color is predefined in CSS. And about the common properties. Okay, so there are so many CSS properties are there. What are the property you are going to use? Okay, and what are you can define in your CSS? Those are like your fonts. Okay, then in fonts you have like font family. You can define like font only. You can define font family also. You can define font size. You can define font style, font weight, font face. Like this, there are so many different properties are there. It's only few we can list and show you. Further, please refer the textbooks. You can refer the internet also, and you will get to know that. So it depends on your practice. You will get to know that what are the properties you have to define in your CSS. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to, because you cannot remember these things. It is totally based on your practice. The moment you do the practice, you will get to know that what are the CSS properties you are going to use in your CSS. Other properties like spacing. If you need any spacing, that means a space between your text or your image, like it's a called margin, right? So you have margin like it's a padding. So you can see that just now we have used as a margin, and with margin we are writing margin. So 50 pixel 0, 10, 0. So if you are defining like this, that means margin bottom, left, right, top. That is the meaning. Same way you'll be having padding top or padding left, padding right, and padding top. Next, about the text size, height you want to define, width you want to define, you can define with these properties. If you want to define the layout, you can use the layout as a bottom, left, right, top, clear, display, float, overflow, position, visibility, Z index. There is a Z index. Z index mostly they will be using in the menu bar, okay? Because when you want the menu bar should be display over your slider, then the people will be using Z index into the menu bar, okay? So in the CSS, in the menu bar, it will be Z index property will be used. Similar way, if you want to define on list style, you can define on list style also. Next, we have to talk about the values. We have seen about the property. Now it is about the values. So what are the value we can define into the properties? We have seen just now in each rule, we have the, in syntax, we have the properties and value. So we have talked about the properties. Similar way, we will be having the value. So in every CSS declaration, definitely it will contains a value for a property. So whenever you are defining property, then there will be a value for that. If you are not defining, definitely the CSS will not give you the exact result. Therefore, you have to add the value into the property. And this unit, whatever the unit of any given value is dependent upon the property. So this all will be dependent on the properties.